Okay, everybody. Welcome back to the Wealthy SAP Consultant podcast with your host, Anita Anello. And I have a very special guest for you guys here today. His name is Danny Gilmore. I'm going to introduce him in just a second. So, you guys know when you watch the show, every episode, I'm pretty kind of like off the cuff. I love to have organic conversations. Today I'm actually going to do something different because there's some very specific things that I want you to hear about Danny's story. So, I'm going to look at some notes why we're going through this podcast episode. So I make sure and touch on all the amazing things that this guest has done. And really like strap yourselves in, get ready, take out your notebooks. If you're driving, don't do that. Come back and listen to the podcast again later. But Danny's really going to knock your socks off today. So let me go ahead and start. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of background as to what we're going to talk about today and why this episode's a little bit different. So Danny and I have known each other for a really long time. We would say, let's say 20 years plus, something like that. And in that time, we've had separate careers in the SAP world. I'll have him go into his own backstory in just a little bit. And then we met each other on a project a couple of years ago, and we worked together, helping this client get out of a tough spot. And then one of the things that was really interesting, and again, I'll let him kind of go into the details, but Danny has been actually in the last year or so has been both a client and now a business partner for me. So I just wanted to bring him onto the show to really show you guys what's possible for all of us as SAP consultants, independent consultants. Doesn't matter what product line that you focus on, and that's your niche market that you serve. But I really want you to tune in on what he's sharing with you about his story and kind of his journey that he's been on in the last little while. So listen in real closely. I have been watching him do the work, people. Like, he is a phenomenal student. He does a fantastic job of asking great questions to clarify what to do when it comes to pitching and positioning offers and creating pipelines. And he has also a wealth of experience around that. So we're going to dive into that a little bit deeper. But I really want you to see kind of the momentum he's got as we almost do like this little journal of his story in the last year or so. This guy has 47 years of experience in manufacturing and distribution. He's really a genius in this space. He's very well respected. His clients absolutely love on him. They gush on him all the time because he's amazing. I know you guys are going to love him when I give him a chance to talk. So just tune your ears in. But I really wanted him to not only talk about his journey, we're going to talk about kind of like high points, low points, what's going on in the marketplace today, how he's done so well in implementing the Wealthy SAP Consultant system, and really what he's learned over the last year. So, Danny, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. I just keep rattling on. I'm so sorry. Let me let you go, do your intro, and kind of give us a little bit of a backstory about, what you're all about, and help everybody understand why this episode in particular on the show is really going to like change their lives and change their businesses.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Anita. I really appreciate that intro. I'm not sure how I'm going to follow up on all of that and live up to the hype, but we'll give it a shot. Um, as Anita said, I've got a lot of years, mostly of applying technology to manufacturing and distribution industry, starting with IBM and ending with, well, not ending, but changing. The traditional career ended with a retirement that I was offered from an SAP reseller. And I had been there 13 years as a general manager, had a lot of fun, put a lot of business on the boards. But it was actually time to kind of step back. And my wife and I both agreed that I was not going to sit at the house and do absolutely nothing. And I felt like I had more to give anyway. So in January of 25, I started a company called Pathway Consulting, and we've been going very well since then.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so he's going to dive into more of his details. I know he's holding back because I told him to like throttle back at the beginning, and then we're going to dive right into it. But what I really want you to understand as you're listening to this episode is before we get into the results and the superstar status that Danny has seen in his business right now today, I want to kind of dial it back a little bit. And I'm going to ask Danny some questions about what was it like before he got started. And I really want you to tune in to some of the questions that I ask him and the answers that he gives. So, Danny, when we first connected, what was going on in your actual business? And I know a lot of the consultants that we are around, friends and family members that we know in this SAP space, sometimes they're in this like feast or famine situation. So, can you kind of describe that a little bit? Did it look like that for you, or have you like what was going on in your business when before we got started?
Great question. I knew I had the skills to perform. I've got industry knowledge. I know how to sell. I know how to close deals. I know how to build relationships. I've been a consultant. I know how to do the work. But where was I going to get the work?
Oh,
How was I going to position the offer so that people would come to me? I wasn't used to going out and building a pipeline. Someone typically does that for you when you're working for someone. So as it turns out, my biggest fear was avoiding that feast or famine cycle. I had a project that kind of kicked off initially, but okay, what are we going to do after that?
yeah,
What's the next one? And I have seen too many times where, particularly in a technical arena, where folks get busy on a project and then all of a sudden look up and the project's over and I don't have anything else.
yeah,
Well, I was determined that wasn't going to happen to me.
yeah.
And that's when you came along.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Can you dive a little bit deeper for our audience and like what was the maybe the thing that you wanted to fix the most? So I heard you say pipeline. I heard you say some stuff about positioning. You and I have talked an awful lot.
Mhm.
I know that you're fantastic at sales. So conversations, like maybe what was your biggest pain point? And you touched on a little bit about your biggest fear, but can you elaborate just a little bit more about what was kind of the one thing that you wanted to fix the most?
I would say that, again, while if you put me in front of a prospect, I can close business.
Yeah.
It's getting in front of that prospect. And for a number of years, I had managed salespeople, I had managed a business, but I wasn't actively doing pipeline marketing. Everybody looks at marketing as kind of a black box and nobody knows what's going on. Well, that was kind of that way with me. I didn't have the kind of lead gen skills necessary in this new arena. I didn't have the LinkedIn experience and DM and all of the things that were a little bit foreign to me specifically about how to go build a pipeline, how to find people out there, and how to build business that's coming into me versus me having to go out and look for it. So that was kind of the pain point was, okay, I can do the work. Where am I going to get it?
Oh, yeah. Was there a moment either before you and I started working together or kind of at the very beginning where you kind of thought, I can't keep doing this way? Because you mentioned to the audience already that you had a project that was starting, but in your mind you acknowledged that I need something more than just this one project, this one time. So what can you talk about that a
Well,
little bit?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one project was great, but you've got to build a continuing ongoing funnel of projects so that I can go from one to the next to the next to the next, and maybe a couple at the same time.
Yeah.
Right now, I've had as many as four projects going at the same time, from building pipelines and getting things ready to go, and currently have three more lined up when we finish the one that we're on right now. So that was what I wanted. Now, I didn't have any idea about how to do that
Yeah.
other than working within the relationships that I already had in the channel and going to those folks to get references from them, get led into other places. And that's that's good as far as it goes,
Mhm.
but you've got to have more than that.
Yeah. Isn't it so interesting over the years? And I've shared this a little bit with you, but I'll share it on the show for everybody else's benefit. I have talked to, I don't know, hundreds of SAP consultants, probably thousands over 20 plus years in this industry. And what I find is the vast majority of all of us, I'll put all of us in the same boat, we have a really hard time with that concept in particular, is building that pipeline, following
Mhm.
those leads. we get in and get those projects because we're experts at what we do. But then when the project's over, we kind of look up and look around and look at our spouses and be like, okay, what's next? I don't know. Money has to come in, right? Right. I know that I've had those conversations in my household. I know I've talked to a lot of other people. What's fascinating to me is very few people understand what we're going to talk about on this episode. That's why it's so important to me that we share this with the masses of what's possible and how do we kind of break that cycle of the feast or the famine. So we'll just call it that.
Yep.
So, yeah. Um, so talk to me about kind of like how did you and I tell the audience your story about how you and I reconnected and you got a wind of the Wealthy SAP Consultant just offer system, masterclass, any of that kind of stuff. Like how did that happen?
Well, as mentioned earlier, you and I knew each other from way back, early SAP days, when I was with a reseller and you were with an SAP, you were with SAP proper, sorry. And then we kind of drifted different directions. And one day your name came up at the office in context with a client that it ended up being a mutual client of ours, having a difficult implementation.
Yeah.
Tensions were a little high. Things were not going as well as they could have.
Yeah.
Everyone was frustrated. And you came in and helped us get it all sorted out, got the client happy, got the system installed, up and running, businesses doing well.
Yeah.
And that got you reintroduced to me. Well, now, you know how recency is, that kind of goes to the back burner just a little bit. And you and I didn't talk for maybe a year or so.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, this opportunity came up to retire. And not long after that, I'm pretty sure, if I recall right, that I got a very intriguing email,
Oh,
which looking back later after having attended the master class and the workshop for the Wealthy SAP Consultant, I
yeah.
discovered that I was caught in the middle of all of the business building activities that were going on at that time with that specific offer.
Yeah.
Um, I will have to say that the email resonated.
Oh.
Okay. What was in it made sense to me,
Hmm.
and it spoke to the things that we had just said. I was looking for a way to consistently build a profitable business, to be able to scale it, to always have enough business that I could choose my clients, not take what I had to have. I have seen this in the sales arena far too often. When you hire a new sales rep and they don't have enough pipeline, they chase all the wrong deals. In the consulting world, I think it's more like you're going to chase a low price deal or a project that you really didn't want to
Yeah.
take, but you didn't have anything else. That was my fear.
Yeah.
And when I saw what was put together, I talked to my wife about it and told her about the relationship, and reminded her of when we were starting our SAP practice up and when we had met. And oh, yeah. And so we both hopped on the masterclass. And there I learned the things that I knew I was going to need to build the business. And that's why we ended up working together. I could see it playing out in the masterclass going, yes, this will work. I like this element. Oh, yeah, that's good. We could do that. I got a lot of that out of the masterclass.
That's awesome. Awesome. So for our audience, I know and love both Danny and his wife. She's incredible. So, but I never knew that she was on in the background. That is so funny. I'm learning new things every day. That's awesome. So I know a lot of people consume a lot of information, Danny. There, and it's hard not to, right? We have constant access on our phones and computers to consume a whole bunch of information. But there's something very different about somebody who's a consumer of information and somebody who takes what they're taught and does something with it, actually implements it. Like, what made you different in that respect? Because you even the story that you just told, the way that you told it, this is what I heard you say. It's like I acknowledged these things were going on. I recognized I had a need, and then I did something with that. So, what was it about you that makes you a little bit different and not just a consumer of info, but really somebody who says, darn it, I want something different in my life or in my business? What was there, do you remember like a moment where you're kind of like, this is me, or I'm going to do something different?
I had a mentor many years ago who taught me something very profound, and I live by it to this day. Decide what you want. Decide what you're willing to give up to get it. That's the work.
Yeah.
Find someone who already has what you want. Get them to help you make a plan, execute on the plan. I knew what I wanted. I know your background and I know what you're capable of. I saw a plan. I'm willing to do the work. And
Yeah.
now we just get there. Um, another little, I use that one time. This is a side story. Sorry, I go down
Nope.
rabbit trails sometimes, but it's applicable, I think. I am totally the least athletic person you will ever meet, most likely. I don't do anything athletically well, but I took that principle to heart and I ended up running the Boston Marathon because I found somebody to teach me. I made a plan, forgot about everything except what am I supposed to do today, went and did the work. And after a while, that dream came true.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in business. Figure that out, make your plan, stick to your plan, do the work, and things will happen.
I love that. That's so exciting. And I'm so glad you threw in the marathon story because it is so applicable in life when we get in and do the thing that we're supposed to do. Sometimes it means we have to say no to good things in order to say yes to something better. This is kind of
What are,
right. This is
what are you
how
willing
we,
to give up? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. There's
yeah,
always a cost.
that's kind of how we operate in our household too. So I love that. Okay, so was there something, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot. What was it about the system that surprised you the most? Was there anything that you felt that was kind of like counterintuitive at first?
I'm trying to think of anything like that. Now, it honestly made a lot of good sense to me
Okay.
because it was a plan built on proven principles with steps to follow,
Yeah.
with introduction to new ways of doing things that result in getting yourself out in the market. Now, I will say that the the first time I heard it, uh, high ticket offers and how to reposition your offer. Okay. Um, I'm used to selling outcomes because that's in essence, we only ever sell two things, ourselves and outcomes.
Yeah.
But repositioning that in the consulting world was a little bit of a new thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you say that and I hear that a lot because this is kind of the framework that I always worked with, and I love to be able to tell clients this is in the corporate world. I was taught, you were taught, we were all taught, like everything has to look like our resume, the KPIs that we did for somebody else.
Mhm.
Everything's kind of like resume based. But then when you get out in the independent world, clients do not buy your certifications. They do not buy what looks like a resume. People are buying the outcome that you can get for them. So you said that very eloquently. But what's funny, because I had the same shift myself when I started my business as a same thing is that I had to kind of like, and I got some great coaching. I invested kind of heavily. I bet I'm not ashamed to say it. I invested heavily to be able to understand and get this perspective shift in myself so that I could see the difference in my business and then help others do the same. So I love that you mentioned that because the outcome shift was big for me too. And it was hard to break out of that because I was basically raised in the corporate world, if you will, having been an executive director at SAP for so many years. And it was always like, no, you position yourself like this. Then you get out in the marketplace and your prospects are like, I don't really, I like you, Anita, but I don't really care what your resume says until I get to know you, until I get to hear that you can help me with what my problem is. Like people pay for the
Yeah.
results that they're trying to get for themselves first and foremost, and then everything else comes after.
I used to try to drum that into my sales guys too, because everybody wants to put the who are we slide up first, right? Nobody cares. What can you do for me?
Oh, side note, side story. This is getting we'll get a kick out of this. If nobody else than just you and me. I had a friend of mine who does not is not really familiar with what we're talking about he's a great copywriter, but he's not really familiar with like positioning. And so I put up a sales page, asked some close friends for some feedback, And that was the first thing he said. He's like, well, your information is way down at the bottom, Anita. What is happening? I want to, and I was like, that's on purpose. Like, I'm not pitching you
Exactly.
first. I'm pitching what I'm doing for somebody else first. So anyway, thank you for taking the time to do a 1 minute side note. Okay, so Danny, let's talk about some of your results because you've had some
Okay.
amazing results in your
Yep.
business. But talk to me about maybe some of the things that's actually happening now. Brag on yourself. Talk about some of the things that you did
Goodness.
well last year. You guys listen up. He is seriously a rock star and being able to implement the system and get the results he's really, really looking for. So go ahead, just go for it. Tell us all the good things.
Well, I guess last year's biggest project was about a $40 million manufacturer who had had a system in place for over 30 years. Um, Another side note, the reason I know it was there 30 years was because I was involved in the sale 30 years ago. Green screen, old, 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 old. And nearly everyone there had been on it for that long and had been at the company that long and had only used that system. So we went through a massive transformation. Took us about 9 months to take them from that to an SAP system. We restructured a lot of their organization, restructured a lot of their business units as well as their pricing strategies, how they went to market. I think what they'll tell you at the end of the day is it was a combination of people, processes, and technology. We had to get SAP in place. We had to restructure their business.
Yeah,
We also had to deal with change. There was a lot of change in that organization, and some
yeah.
folks weren't ready for it. So
Oh,
it was a matter of the dance between going into, well, they have actually two co-presidents, very interesting, and they're two completely opposite personalities. So you go in and deal with one on a very low-key technical basis, and the other one you go out to lunch and have a great time and talk about the business. And then you go into each of the folks in their different areas and help them adjust to the change, hold their hand, let them know they're going to make it, sit with them, work with them. A lot of that was going on.
yeah,
And they're a happy user. They've got I guess about 40 or 50 users using the system very well. And I still help them from time to time, even though they're not actively in the next phase yet.
yeah.
Um, Gosh, the one that's really heavy lifting was this one that I'm in right now. You can see I'm in a hotel room, I'm on the road, and we're just about to go live with a system that was 20 users, but manufacturing firm that has a foreign corporate parent. That parent is about to take the company public.
Yeah.
So we had no bandwidth, not enough users, a 4 month window to implement a system that's going from periodic inventory to a perpetual inventory. They've never done production orders before.
Wow.
They've never had inventory before. They're going public. They had a company come in and put controls on top of them so that they could operate in SOX compliance and
Oh,
so forth. And that one, you said brag on me. I've done everything from managing the project, helping the partner that sold them the software, make sure it happens. I had to do all the data prep and data creation. I've created all the bills of materials, designed the production process. I've done the configuration. I've done the training. We're just finishing up UAT now, documenting all the processes. And so I've pretty much lived in this hotel room for a little while, but it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Okay, so if you guys caught what Danny did, I watched his eyes kind of go in the direct and off to the side of the camera a little bit because I could see his mind going through the checklist of all the amazing things he's done to get the results and the outcomes for his client. Danny, what about you? What like is the specific impact on your business, your household, the wins that you guys have had financially in the business and in your household? How can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, we set a goal for our first year in business, and I thought it was a pretty decent goal. We hit 118% of that target. So again, my wife, who's my 50% partner, I do the work, but she's 50% partner. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but okay. After after 49 years of marriage, I figured to just let that go. It's gonna all be okay. and she'll hear this later and I'll have to deal with it.
You'll chuckle.
We decided that we were going to double revenue this year. We said, okay, we had fun last year. We made good money.
Yep.
But if this is going to be a going business, it needs to make more money. And we set a target to double. We're at 116% of that target year to date. And more projects are in line. And I can easily see how, with what's lined up, I'm not really concerned that we'll make that target or possibly exceed it just a little bit. And we'll reset again next year and grow again.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it. And I love the 50% part. That's a bit. Anyway, that's awesome. Let me kind of look here. I have a couple more questions around like the results that you have that I'm trying to look and see kind of what we've talked about already and what would be
Mhm.
most powerful and impactful for our audience. Um, Based on what you've learned in the last year and what you've implemented in your last year, what's changed about how you show up in maybe sales conversations or just anywhere in your business? What's changed about you and how you show up in your business versus where you were before, maybe before we met or as an employee? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, possibly the biggest thing is that if I am in front of one of my clients, I am always talking about the value that's being brought by the project. If we have a conversation, it's about, okay, what is this doing for your business? How are we going to fix this? Hey, this is going to have an impact. We need to make sure that we take care of this,
Okay.
whatever this is at the moment. But
Right.
it's that tuning into outcomes,
Mhm.
um, and being very hands-on with the client. You've got to keep an eye on everything that's going on all the time, make sure the lines of communications are open
Yeah.
at all levels of the project, because
Mm,
what you hear at 3 levels down is not the same thing you're going to hear from the CEO
right.
ever. I've not yet met a place where that story lines up all the way down.
Yeah.
So the more you bounce back and forth, um, the more that you keep in touch with those things. I've had discoveries in an implementation that I will ask the president, "Did you know that this is the way this works in your business?"
Yeah.
They had no idea,
Great question.
none at all. So
Yeah.
you're educating them about their own business sometimes, enlightening them about the way their processes really work and the
Yeah.
impact of how those processes work. So I try to stay tuned into that when I'm out there talking to folks.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, one more thing about just the results and kind of your amazingness, and then we'll turn a corner a little bit. You have 47-ish years of
Mhm.
expertise in this is what I know, and I love this about you, about relationships and networking. What has the system changed about how you leverage that a little bit better and kind of tune into it a little bit more? Because you were naturally already good at this piece, but how have you been able to leverage that even better nowadays?
Well, interesting you say that I was always naturally good at this piece. Not so. I was the ultimate nerd. My degrees are all technical. They're electrical engineering, uh, computer design, built a computer in the apartment before there were PCs and not from a kit from scratch.
Yeah.
I was hopeless. Started off in a technical career, and for some reason, yet to be understood, I decided that, well, okay, for you young folks in the audience who still have great ambition, I was going to be the CEO of IBM. And the only way I was going to do that was through sales. So
Oh,
obviously, logical that I am, I needed a sales career. That was an almost dismal disaster, and we nearly starved to death. But through that experience, I learned to understand people. And
mm,
I've probably spent about the last 30 years understanding people, the different kinds of people, the way they communicate, the way they hear. And I turned that into a sales career by being able to relate with various people. In a project, sometimes that translates into relating to the CEO and to the AP clerk in the same conversation at different levels based on where they are and the type of personalities that they are. So I took that and pulled that into a sales career and spent a lot of time doing it. And I'm still fascinated by it. Even after all these years and selling for everybody, it still amazes me in a public place where a stranger walks up and says hi to me.
Mm.
And that just floors me. I'm like, oh, I could never do that.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay.
Ah,
So let's take a turn, a little bit of a turn,
mhm.
because we've talked about a lot of amazing things that are going on. But the truth is, and what I also want to share, like the flip side of business, is that
Okay.
sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's a struggle. Like right now, what we're seeing in the economy is weird. It's doing weird things, people
Yep.
behaving in kind of strange ways, economics and projects and our previous clients and pipelines, all AI has created some uncertainty for us. Like, what do you think? Like, how are we navigating this right now? And start to kind of share a little bit of like the harder side of business, the struggle. What keeps you up at night? What are the things that you're working on, working through that you feel like you're just be transparent and honest with the audience.
Good. Have you heard it said that in every adversity lies the seed of an equal or greater benefit?
Yeah.
We're in an economy that is in turmoil to some degree
Oh yeah.
because of uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly which way things are going to go. Is this situation going to resolve itself? What's gas prices going to do? What's the war in Iran going to do? That's the fear of the moment, but it's always something.
Hmm.
Okay. What I want to do is tune myself into the ones who are actually listening.
Mm.
There are a bunch of people that are hearing AI pressures. They're hearing that the economy is bad, et cetera, et cetera. There's always a percentage, though,
Mm.
that are hearing, oh, this is an opportunity. I can grab this and run with it and do something my competitors are not doing, create an advantage and move ahead of everybody else by taking advantage of those who are sitting there thinking the economy is bad and I can't spend money. They're out there. They're always out there.
Yeah.
So the focus in this economy to me is, okay, how do we reach those who think different than the
Mm.
masses? The ones who, example, would like to use AI to make more money, not just improve some process that reduces costs,
Yeah.
take advantage of the long-term gain. They're out there. That's what we need to focus on, I think.
Yeah. I love that. I love the way when you and I have conversations about this kind of offline, we're working on some partnering projects together. And these are some of the things that we talk about of like, what's available to us right now? Where are the opportunities right now? How do we go after this right now? And really kind of forcing ourselves to open our eyes a little bit wider to see what's possible instead of hiding ourselves so I would say for both of us, like, good job, we're doing this. So if you're listening to this podcast right now and this is something that resonates with you, like, come along for the ride with us. These are some of the things that we're actively talking about in our businesses. And not everybody's having these conversations. I know sometimes the current landscape, I find this a lot when I talked to one group of SAP consultants and they're very fearful. There's
Mhm.
not enough business. I actually had a gentleman that I chatted with, oh gosh, late last year. I was interviewing him as a potential guest on the podcast, and his whole outlook was he was from another country, had migrated over to North America. I'm trying to remember if he was actually stateside or in Canada, but he was over here in the States on a visa, and his whole perspective was there's not enough business. This is no good. I'm going to go back home to my country. And I don't remember what country it was, but let's say tiny country. And I mean that respectfully, right? So he came to the US market, one of the best economies, better than most. And his viewpoint was so fascinating to me because he's like, Anita, it's not good here. I think I'm going home. And I was like, wow, really? Like I've never heard that ever in my life, especially from somebody who's migrated over. So then there's another group of folks. This is kind of where Danny and I hang out. You might have already gotten this is let's figure out what's possible. Let's open our eyes wider to what's available to us. Let's listen to what the market giving us feedback on of the type of offers that they want, and let's work together and figure those things out and kind of go in that direction. So, okay, so what do you hear as maybe like the biggest objection you might be hearing right now, Danny, from prospects? What's kind of happening in the prospect world? Do you feel like you're being met with resistance? And if so, what would be like that number one thing of resistance you're hearing right now?
Well, first of all, no is just the first step, not the end of the journey. So depends on what you mean by what am I hearing.
Yeah,
I'm not always hearing no. I'm hearing, okay, let's fix that and move forward. Right.
so good.
But so far, I think I've been really fortunate in those projects because folks are spending money and they are changing their businesses and they are putting in systems. Um, when I do hear it lately, I've kind of heard it from others, and they're hearing things like, well, I'm not sure I need to make this investment now because I'm not sure what the economy is going to do. And that tells me that you haven't positioned the solution properly.
Yeah.
If the customer or prospect is thinking of this as a cost, not an investment, you haven't sold the outcome.
Mm.
He's stuck on the cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hearing from my compatriots and folks I hang around with sometimes, and those
Yeah.
former colleagues that I check in on, a lot of them are saying things like, well, people are delaying their decisions. Um, and now, again, I haven't seen that play out quite yet, but apparently it's out there.
Yeah. Ah, my goodness, we could talk on that one for hours, but
Yeah.
let me try to stay
Well,
on track.
since we're sitting here with an audience of consultants,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of you out there are just like I am, linear thinkers, analytical, facts, tendency toward negative. You can train yourself to look at the positive side. You can train yourself to look at the positive outcome if you put some effort into it, and it will be uncomfortable, but it's rewarding.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for that bonus information right there. That is gold. Okay, so as we're getting ready to kind of like wind up here, Danny, what would you tell yourself, kind of like your earlier self, about just if you and I hadn't met and you went back to, let's say, 18 months before
Mhm.
today, what would you tell that Danny to kind of who might be sitting on the fence of I'm not really sure. I've just gotten this opportunity to retire early, but I still have energy and I still want to do something and I'm a little bit scared. I don't know, should I keep putting it off? Like what would you tell that version of yourself that now you know and now you have the confidence that this is what winning looks like.
I would love to have started it 5 years ago,
Oh,
but I
wow.
wouldn't have
More.
had the mindset to do it.
Oh,
I'm thinking, how much farther ahead would I be had I started 5 years ago?
yeah. Okay.
It's back again, it's back to find the right mentor and execute on a plan. And you and I are executing on plans,
Yeah.
but those plans take time. So the momentum could have been building earlier.
Yeah. If someone listening now is considering waiting, can you talk to us from your experience on what's the cost of waiting? What does that do to just a person in general?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you put yourself in a position where you don't have business coming, you're going to take anything and everything.
Mm.
So ask yourself, number one, what's the financial cost?
Oh,
Number two, what's the emotional cost when you're in a job that you don't want
yeah.
and you'd rather not have taken, but you got to pay the bills? Okay. I mean, is what it is. You've got to keep money coming in. Whereas if you'd have taken the initiative to change your mindset, get new skills, learn how to market yourself in the marketplace at the value that you probably don't know that you have,
Oh, yeah.
which is one of the things that the wealthy SAP consultant has helped me with is I tend to underestimate myself.
Mm.
Most of us tend to overestimate everybody else and underestimate themselves. And by us hanging out together, by following through with the plans, it elevates my worth in my own eyes to myself, which now will come out when we're speaking with other people. Other people will see that when you go speak. So it's a matter of getting yourself positioned properly, learning the skills you need, becoming a very confident business person, scaling up your business, and again, not just the financial, because you'll reap financial rewards, but what fun it is when you're in control. You know you can do this. You love your business. You love what you do, and you're making a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the cost of waiting on that?
I know. Ooh, a lot. I mean, I know, I know it was a rhetorical question, but I'll say a lot. Yeah. Okay, one other question I thought of. You and I both know a lot of friends, colleagues in this space that we will talk to, and their solution is I'm going independent, and their solution is often, Anita, I just need more certifications. Could you speak to that a little bit? Like if someone in their mindset says, no, I just need to get more certifications. I need more letters behind my name and certifications on my belt, under my belt, and posts on LinkedIn about I did this additional certification. Now, just to be clear, I'm all for education. I love education. But I know that this has been my experience. Danny's going to share his experience. Clients don't buy more certifications. What they buy is what we've been talking about, is we know how to position ourselves as somebody who can produce the outcomes and the results that our clients are looking for, and then communicate that clearly and succinctly in our positioning to the marketplace and offer that up. And then the market says, yes, you're the person that I want to work with, because I can see that you see my pain point and you see my problems and you know how to solve them. And then you follow up with, this is like a teaching moment real quick. Then you follow up with, oh yeah, by the way, I have these certifications but leading with the certification is not actually what moves the market. So can you maybe just take, I don't know, 30, 60 seconds and talk about that a little bit? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me start with this. I don't have any certifications. Can I just start there?
That's it. Mic drop. Yeah.
And
Yes.
my clients don't care,
Yeah.
because what they care about is when I walk in the door, I understand their
Mm,
business. I
yeah.
understand the issues that they have. I demonstrate the fact that I can solve those issues.
Yeah.
I build a relationship with those clients so that we're in this together, and that's how you win business. Now,
Yeah.
if you've got certifications, that's great. And I understand that in certain instances, certain industries, they're necessary.
Yeah.
That's fine. But that's not what's going to close the deal for you.
Yeah, I love that. So good. So good. Okay. So as we're wrapping up here, for anybody who's listening about what Danny's been doing, I will make sure and put his contact information. If you want to follow him on LinkedIn, I'll make sure and put his contact information in the show notes. So first of all, I want to honor you and thank you for being here with me today. Also, I want to let you know, for those of you that are listening, we do have another Wealthy SAP Consultant Masterclass coming up. We'll be sure to put the next dates and the link to be able to register in the show notes. The link to be able to register is always, all the time. Whenever we're running this, we don't run it all the time, but it's wealthysapconsultant.com/masterclass. And I'll make sure and put that in the show notes as well. The other thing that I want to mention is when you upgrade to the VIP hour in the masterclass, what you get is actually one-on-one coaching with me and my special guests that join me on the masterclass. So exciting news, as if you've enjoyed this podcast episode and what Danny has been saying has resonated with you, he's going to join me in the master classes now. So you'll not only learn from me, the system of the Wealthy SAP Consultant, and Danny's going to bring his secret sauce, his amazing ability to understand all the different personality styles, understand yourself a little bit better so that you can do better in the sales environment. So, Danny, is there anything else that you want to add around just the coming to the next masterclass that we're offering? Kind of depends on when people are listening to this, but we'll make sure and put all the details in the show notes for everybody so that it's just on evergreen.
I would just say that it has definitely been worth me reaching out and joining the masterclass and then joining you in business together. it's been spectacular for my business. And I would encourage anybody listening to take advantage of this and get your business on a roll.
Yeah, so fantastic. Okay, gang, thanks for being with us on this extended episode. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be sure and put those notes in the description after the video, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Thank you. Okay.